there were a number of key decisions. I should start out first by saying that one of my best decisions was to marry somebody smarter than myself, which I managed to do. Suzanne Topalian has been a great collaborator of mine in this cancer immunology and immunotherapy journey. I think there's been a lot of synergy there. If you can't marry somebody smarter than yourself, at the very least, associate yourself with students and fellows who are smarter than you are, give them encouragement, and then just stay out of their way. Another important decision for me when I was starting out was to be sure to worship at the altar of basic science as much as worshiping at the altar of finding a cure for cancer. In other words, don't throw basic science under the bus. For me, this was really critical. I began and spent a significant portion of my career working on genetically engineered cancer vaccines, and those didn't work out. But at the same time, I was studying molecules that regulated T cell function, as well as actually dendritic cell function, because dendritic cells present antigens to T cells. And that led me through stumbling onto what's now called PDL2 to work on the PD1 pathway, as well as in collaborations discovering that LAG3 was a checkpoint. And these findings that came from basic science really turned out to be the pathways for my contributions to immunotherapies that have made a difference for patients. Finally, I think it's important to not be afraid to change course in your training and, even further on in your career, depending on events, discoveries that you find. I originally, based on my PhD thesis work, was going to work on oncogenes and oncogenic pathways. And then as an oncology fellow on the bone marrow transplant service, I saw before my eyes the power of the immune system, either for good in terms of the graft versus tumor effect, or for bad in terms of graft versus host disease. But that clinical experience led me to radically change my direction for my career and bring me into the cancer immunology and immunotherapy world. One set of words of wisdom I'll steal from Wayne Gretzky when he was asked how it was he was such a great hockey player. And his answer was, I don't skate to where the puck is. I skate to where it's going to be. That's, I think, how you can really innovate and move the field forward, which is to think about where it can be potentially going in 5 years. That is not the easiest thing in the world in the context of funding systems, which tend to favor more incremental, less risky projects. But it's something that I think one should always strive for. Another piece of advice is to remember that, particularly in looking at a new job, the most overrated aspect is, quote unquote, the package, how many dollars they're going to give you in startup and whatnot. And the most underrated is the environment. If you're really in the right environment, you will find sources of funding as you go along. You will be collaborators with people who will help you do that, and you'll succeed. If you are in the wrong kind of environment, one where there are not opportunities for collaboration or synergy, that's going to make it much more difficult. So remember that the environment that you work in is really incredibly important. And then finally, I would remind people that the experiment that didn't come out the way you expected is the only one that's going to teach you something new. We oftentimes are doing experiments once we get a particular idea in our head, and we want the experiment to turn out a certain way to support an idea or a hypothesis that we have. But that oftentimes is the standard hypothesis that everybody believes anyway. And those completely unexpected results really warrant one standing back and saying, if this is true, if it's reproducible, what does it imply? And let those unexpected results take you down the new path that you'll follow if you keep your eyes open to what they're trying to tell you. Being inducted into the Academy of Immuno Oncology really does mean a lot to me. Arguably more than any other honor. And the reason for that is that the immuno-oncology community is my community. It's the community that I interact with, it's the community that I collaborate with, it's the community that I have so many friendships with, and it is the community that I am so excited that this induction represents appreciation and respect for the 35 years that I've been working in this field. And I think that the most important thing is to be recognized by the peers, by your peers in your field. For the first roughly 18 to 20 years of my career, the rest of the cancer research community, as well as the clinical oncology community, really didn't believe that what I was doing as a cancer immunologist and cancer immunotherapist was going to ultimately amount to anything. But it is the people in the cancer immunology and the immunotherapy community, the SITC community, that really has always believed collectively in what these discoveries, what discoveries that I contributed to will mean, and that they would one day make a difference in cancer patients' lives. So this is really an extremely meaningful honor for me.